What's up, y'all? I literally just got back from seeing Zach Cregger's latest film, Weapons, and I'm here to confirm for you that, as I thought after watching the trailer, it was friggin' awesome. So, Weapons is a horror slash character drama about a small town in America where a specific classroom within a school, the entire room of kids, except for one kid, all just get up out of their beds at 2:17 in the morning. They walk out of their house and they run off into the darkness, never to be seen from, never to be heard from again. And so this whole movie is about characters in this town trying to figure out what the hell happened to these kids. And the first thing I want to point out is that the marketing of the movie did a fantastic job of not revealing anything meaningful other than just conveying, here is the concept for the movie, which is a phenomenal concept, and then that's it. And then when you go and you see the film, the first couple minutes of the movie are the exact same. It's like a little girl narrating.
This is a true story that happened in my town.
She kind of gives you the setup exposition via narration right up front, right off rip. That's what you get. It's like, okay, we kind of get a little bit more fleshed out version of like the trailer in the very beginning, and then it just dives right into the movie. So hats off for the marketing, where they didn't show the whole freaking movie. None of the important or interesting wrinkles and tidbits about what the movie turns into are revealed, which I love. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So real quick, let's go over the characters and the performances of the movie. We have Julia Garner, who is the teacher of the classroom of where all these kids go missing. She is probably the best performance of the movie. She does an amazing job, but to be fair, I think that Julia Garner is like just kills it in everything that she's in. A lot of interesting depth to her character. They kind of provide a little bit of insight about her previous job as a teacher, where she ran into some trouble in terms of like inappropriate conduct with another faculty member. They also will kind of allude to the fact that maybe she oversteps her boundaries as a teacher in terms of like, trying to offer like guidance to her students. Or there's mention of like one time where she gave, I think, one of the girls in her classroom like a ride home because she missed the bus and her parents couldn't make it. So like little things like that. Nothing weird, by the way. I'll say that right up front. Nothing weird, but things that in today, 2025, would be looked at strange. She also has a little bit of a drinking problem, which they kind of touch upon early on in the movie, but it's not like something that they beat you over the head with. She becomes like the witch hunt target of the town once all of these children go missing naturally because, she's the teacher. Surely she had to have known something. They had to have been planning this. There's no way that all of these kids, except for one, just wake up and they just run out of their homes and are never heard from again. And this teacher has, zero inkling as to what happens. So she becomes public enemy number one. People ring her doorbell at night. She gets shady blocked phone calls with threatening messages. Somebody writes or paints witch on her car. So when the film starts, you're following her perspective and you can see the effects that this has on her. She basically goes right from work to the liquor store and she buys her vodka and she goes home and just tries to like get through the night. She does a little bit of mingling with the town folk. She kind of likes to sleep around a little bit. She has a little bit of an affair with one of the other key characters in the film, but that's all I will say. But she does a phenomenal job throughout the movie. Very meek, very kind of timid performance. Hats off to Julia Garner. Josh Brolin his name is Archer in the movie. He plays the father of one of the children that goes missing. He's the most vocal accuser of Julia Garner's character. He's angry. He's been greatly affected by what's happened. His son has gone missing. They show some really good character development stuff with him, where like once they start kind of following his character, they show him waking up and he's sleeping in his son's bed. His wife is seemingly like frustrated and fed up with him because he just won't let it go. He's just constantly doing like his own sleuthing and trying to investigate, and he's pressuring the police force, and he's just very vocal. He's outspoken. He's a little bit of an asshole. I think the behavior is probably warranted given his circumstances. They show that he's a general contractor. There is a scene where they establish that he's messing up at work. He's ordering like the wrong color paint for the houses, or he's not placing orders for siding. So you can see that his personal life is being heavily impacted by what has happened to him. And I think the performance from Josh Brolin is pretty strong, but he's always a pretty safe bet. We have the new Han Solo guy, Alden Ehrenreich. Alden Ehrenreich plays a police officer named Paul. Paul is how do I describe Paul? He's got a bit of a crooked moral compass, a little bit, not crazy, but he has some troubles in his own life, is what I will say. Probably the most subtle performance of all the main characters in the movie. He just plays, it's pretty straightforward. He's a cop that's got a little bit of drama, a little bit of issues going on in his own personal life. And then we have, I want to get this right, Austin Abrams as James. James is a homeless crackhead who lives in a tent in the woods in the town. And he spends a lot of the time in the movie trying to break into cars and just acting like a crackhead. But his performance is actually really good. There's times where you kind of forget. You're like, oh no, this is not like an actual crackhead. This is some dude who's being paid to portray one. And last but not least, we have Carrie Christopher as Alex, who is the sole remaining kid from the class where everyone went missing. So he is the only child that did not just seemingly vanish. Pretty basic like kid in a horror movie performance. And his character doesn't have a whole lot of screen time. His big contribution to the beginning of the movie is probably second to Julia Garner's character. He is the second most questioned person in the town. Well, why is he the only kid that didn't go missing? He has to deal with a whole barrage of like police and detective and FBI interviews with people dedicating some attention towards him because he did not go missing. Those are our characters. Now, the movie itself, the thing that I loved like right away was once they kind of reveal the structure of the movie, it's like, oh, hell yeah, this is going to be good. So, as I said, the movie opens with the little girl narrating and kind of catching you up on, hey, all these kids went missing, and here's the teacher. She was pretty new to the school, and she's taking it hard, and now the whole town doesn't like her, and blah, blah, blah. And then, boom, now we follow Julia Garner's character until, I'll just say, something impactful, like, happens, right? So she kind of begins kind of trying to, like, piece together what happened, and so initially I'm thinking, like, okay, the movie's going to be following her, and she's going to be the one to like figure out what happened to all these kids, right? But once something impactful happens to Julia Garner, the movie just hard cuts and you get a title screen where then it says like Archer or the name of a character, and then boom, now we just hard cut to following Josh Brolin's character, but you're kind of recovering the same like 48-hour window, right? So it's like it's the same, like maybe I think it's maybe around like 2 days, right, at that time frame. But now we're seeing what is Josh Brolin's character doing throughout that entire time period, and then boom, something impactful happens with him that like really kind of pushes the narrative forward, and then they hard cut, and now we're following Paul, the police officer, and then they start really weaving all of the all of the different characters' arcs together in a way that was done really well. Like there's lots of like, I'm thinking if there's a scene with Julia Garner and new Han Solo, they're at a bar and he has like a bandage on his finger, and she just like a little throwaway line during the scene, she kind of mentions like, oh, what happened to your finger? And he goes, oh, it's nothing, it's like a work thing. And then when you follow Paul, his perspective on like what he was doing in that 48-hour period, and you figure out like, oh, that's what happened to his finger. Like cool little details like that. Like, so you kind of start connecting these dots, and every time they switch perspectives to a new character, it seems like they're kind of peeling more layers of the onion back on the actual mystery, which is where the hell did all these kids go? Why did they all just leave their house? Where are they now? You kind of just keep getting these like little nuggets of like, oh, that character like saw this, or you know, whatever. You're just learning new information throughout the movie. And there were times where it almost felt like I was watching like if Tarantino had to make like a horror film, right? Like where like Pulp Fiction-y, where you're kind of like switching perspectives, and the movie does a cool job of like kind of stylistically and like tonally switching the movie a little bit every time they change perspective. So when you're following Julia Garner, she's very paranoid and she's very guarded, and so it feels very like thriller-esque, where you're paranoid and you're always like watching in the frame of like where she's going and who's behind her and things like that. And then when they switch to when you're following Paul, the police officer, there's like a really cool chase sequence and some really like nice camera work and like this car chase scene. Yeah, really, really cool the way that the movie was structured in terms of like jumping the characters, and you kind of just get little bits of information from the next character that you didn't see from the previous two, kind of stuff, which was really, really, really cool. The movie has a great like energy to it. There's even like a good amount of like comedic moments with like some of like the body horror stuff. I think it's like intentionally comedic. I think even like the big ending of the movie some people might find humorous, would be my assumption. I also really enjoyed how the movie was not afraid to take, and when I say the movie, I mean like Zach Cregger, who wrote and directed it, wasn't afraid to take some risks. I think the biggest one for me was it's like the end of Act 2, they basically reveal to you like this is exactly what happened to the children. And then you're sitting there and you're like, okay, pretty sure the movie was supposed to be like 2 hours and 8 minutes. I've got like 45 minutes left of this movie. Like what are they going to do in these last 45 minutes of the film? So that was interesting, right? Because if this was like a Blumhouse or a more straightforward horror film, you would expect like, okay, they're going to like reveal, oh, there's what happened to the kids in the last like 20 minutes, and there's going to be a resolution where they like, you know, either kill a bad guy or a monster or something, and they figure it out. Whereas in this movie, it's like, no, we're going to kind of like basically conclusively tell you this is what happened. And then in the third act, it's more about here are the nuts and bolts of how this came to be. And then they do bring together Julia Garner and Josh Brolin's character to where they become like the true protagonists of the film in Act 3. And you're like, okay, all the characters are in place. Now what? And it leads to just one of those endings where you're just sitting there and you're like, no fucking way this is happening. Both in terms of plot and just like execution, and like just so creative and unconventional, right? Similar to Zach Cregger's previous movie, Barbarian, which was pretty unconventional at times. The ending of this movie is the same way. In the first act, Act 1 and Act 2 are just like a really good, almost like a character drama. Like there were times where I legit forgot that I was watching a horror movie, because you get so caught up in like how they're executing this this character drama of learning all these little details about the different characters. And it's done really, really well. The second thing, the other risk that they took, obviously, is like anytime you have a movie where something happens to children, kids go missing, there's little bits of like, child manipulation or maybe some violence towards kids, similar to what is the Bring Her Back. Bring Her Back has like probably over the line, like too much violence towards children. I don't know if you've seen Bring Her Back, you know what I'm talking about. Weapons doesn't have it to that level, but there's still some risk. Anytime you're like, okay, we're gonna kind of like show the mistreatment of children in a movie, you're taking a little bit of a risk. I like that the movie did that. I don't like specifically like bad things happening to kids. I'm saying that I enjoy films that are not afraid to take a risk, especially where it makes sense plot-wise, with what's going on in the film. I'm trying to think of some bugaboos. Music, I always talk about music briefly. It didn't really stand out. There was some decent stuff, but a lot of just like that modern horror, like droney bass synth, like the yeah, the music wasn't stand out, but it's a very quiet movie. I remember that, very quiet, and then we'll get into probably the biggest issue with the movie, just in terms of the filmmaking, is it's like if you watched Game of Thrones and there's like the Battle of Winterfell episode in the last season, and you like can't see what the fuck is happening in half the scenes because the color grading is so dark. Everything's just so dark. There's a couple sequences in scenes from Weapons that suffer the same problem, where I was just like, oh my goodness, it's so dark. Like, just brighten some shit up so that we can see. So a little bit of that was kind of like a bugaboo for me. But overall, man, it's just good. It was so good. I'm glad that the ending was as awesome as it was, because I had doubts just about the plot, right? Because the concept is so cool, where it's like, okay, what if a whole classroom full of kids just gets up in the middle of the night and just runs out the front door? No one knows where the hell they are, where they went. I was worried that like the reveal would end up feeling kind of dumb or something, where it's like an unsatisfactory, like, oh, okay. It doesn't have that. And then similarly, when they reveal with like 45 minutes left, like what happened to the kids, and then you're just like, oh, what are they gonna do now for the rest of the movie? And it's awesome. So the TLDR is that Weapons is great. I don't know what other horror movies are coming down the pipeline that would surpass it, at least for 2025. Like, this is probably going to be my favorite horror movie of the year, I would think.
Are you watching?
Oh, I saw a trailer for another Conjuring movie, and I was just like, for how long? For how long must they make this shit? They're all the same thing. The plot of the new movie is like, oh, when we were like really young, we encountered this demon, and we were so scared that we had to run away. Well, that demon is back. And then they cut to like a shot of like blood writing on the wall, and it's like, did you miss me? And I was just like, Jesus Christ. But hey, you got to give those 8th grade kids something to go see on the weekends. So I get it. It's fine. You can keep making them. I'll keep seeing shit like Weapons. Anyways, that's all I got. Peace.